The greatest military trick in history wasn't a secret weapon, it wasn't a master spy, it was a giant toy horse, a 4-story wooden gift that an entire city willingly dragged through its own front gates. I'm Professor Digby Stone, and this one has been buried for 3,000 years. Let's dig it up. Welcome to Brick History, where the biggest moments of the past get rebuilt one brick at a time. Today, the Trojan War, a 10-year siege, a face that launched 1,000 ships, and the sneakiest plan ever stuffed inside a horse. Strap in. We're going back to roughly 1200 BC. It started, like a lot of ancient disasters, with a love story. Helen, said to be the most beautiful woman in the world, was married to Menelaus, the king of Sparta. Then along came Paris, a prince of the great walled city of Troy. Paris and Helen ran off together across the sea. Now, Menelaus did not take this well, and he had a very well-connected brother, Agamemnon, the most powerful king in Greece. Agamemnon rallied every Greek kingdom, and they launched the largest war fleet the ancient world had ever seen, 1,000 ships, to bring Helen back and burn Troy to the ground. Here's the problem the Greeks didn't see coming. Troy's walls. They were enormous, thick, and, according to legend, built by the gods themselves. So the Greeks landed on the beach, pitched their tents, and got stuck for 10 long years. There were legendary duels. The unstoppable Greek hero Achilles against Troy's greatest defender, Prince Hector. There was glory, there was tragedy, but there was no way through those walls. Brute force had failed. What Troy needed to fall wasn't a stronger sword, it was a smarter mind, and the Greeks had exactly one of those. His name was Odysseus, the cleverest man in the Greek army, and he had an idea so strange it just might work. The Greeks would build an enormous wooden horse, hollow inside. They'd hide their best soldiers within its belly. Then, the rest of the army would pack up the tents, burn the camp, sail over the horizon, and vanish. To the Trojans, it would look like the Greeks had finally given up and gone home, leaving behind one last gift, a peace offering to the gods. Day and night, Greek craftsmen sawed and hammered until a horse the size of a building stood on the empty beach. They left one man behind, a spy named Sinon, with a single, very convincing lie to tell. At dawn, the Trojans woke to silence. No army, no fleet, just smoke from an abandoned camp and a towering horse standing on the sand. They had won, or so they thought. They poured out of the gates to celebrate. But not everyone was convinced. A priest named Laocoon hurled his spear at the horse and shouted a warning that echoes to this day. Beware of Greeks bearing gifts. And the Princess Cassandra, cursed to always tell the truth and never be believed, screamed that the horse would doom them all. The crowd laughed them off. The Greeks were gone. This was a trophy. So the Trojans tied ropes to the horse, and to fit it through the gate, they tore a hole in their own unbreakable walls and wheeled the enemy inside. Then they partied all night. While the city slept off its celebration, a hatch creaked open in the horse's belly. One by one, Greek soldiers climbed down into the dark, silent streets. They crept to the gates and threw them wide. Because here's the part the Trojans missed. The Greek fleet had never sailed home. It had hidden just beyond the horizon, waiting for a signal. Now it returned in the night, and an entire army surged into the sleeping, undefended city. After 10 years of failing to break in, the Greeks had been invited in. By morning, the greatest city of the age was ash. Troy had fallen, not to an army, but to an idea. Now, here's where the archaeologist in me gets excited. For centuries, people thought Troy was a pure myth, a bedtime story. Then, in the 1870s, a treasure hunter named Heinrich Schliemann started digging at a hill in modern Turkey called Hisarlik and found a real city. Not just one, 9 cities stacked on top of each other across the centuries. And one layer, dated to around the right time, showed scorch marks, scattered weapons, and signs of a violent end. So, was there a war? Quite possibly. Was there a talking horse-shaped magic trick? Here's a fun theory. The horse may have been a symbol. The sea god Poseidon was god of both horses and earthquakes, so some believe an earthquake cracked Troy's walls, and the horse was how people remembered it. Others think it was an early siege engine. The truth is buried somewhere in those layers, and we're still digging. 3,000 years later, we still use the phrase, a Trojan horse, for any trap that looks like a gift. Even the viruses on your computer. Not bad for a wooden toy. If you enjoyed digging into this one, hit subscribe. Next time, we're uncovering a city that was frozen in time in a single afternoon. Until then, keep questioning the gifts. I'm Professor Stone, and this has been Brick History.